personal power, people positive, the community of connection. This is the Bob Jeswald Show.
So, okay, we're ready to rock and roll. Joanne Kogel's here, and we're all here. So, which is so cool today. We just had the honor, talking to our Jersey friend here, which is phenomenal. Of course, Adi Segal in the house, the CEO of Hapi. And you spelled it an interesting way. Tell us why. What is the acronym of Hapi? It's not the Happy that you and Joanne and I understand.
Yeah, sure. So it's not an acronym. I think it was just a clever Silicon Valley way of spelling it, because I'm not the founder. I joined the company a year ago.
Okay.
And so I inherited certain things, including the name. And I was just saying in another conversation that given the work that we do, which I'm sure we'll get into, I think it's a clever branding name, but actually a misnomer when it comes to what you're supposed to get out of every Hapi session. Because what you get from listening and deep listening is certainly a sense of relief and a sense of being able to get it all off your chest or the weight off of your shoulders, but you're not always happy at the end.
Sure.
Life is a journey of finding happiness. And so that's where the name comes from, though.
Is this something we adopt in the workplace? You can take your company and that platform of Hapi and really retrofit it almost in any business, I would think.
Yeah. So actually, our main business today is direct to consumer. Mm-hmm. And right. And
there
so
you go.
People just find our app. However, where I believe the business is going and where we're actually spending most of our time on the business development side is B2B. We're selling into businesses because what they find really interesting is two things. Number one, we run a listening academy. We built this for our listeners, but about 2 days before we went to shoot all of these custom videos, this is what no producer wants. The CEO calls up and says, "Hey, we got to change all the scripts," right? Yeah. I said, "You don't realize what we have here. We wrote all of these scripts for the Hapi professional listener. But by doing that, we were going to close ourselves off into just making a training program for our platform. What we did was I said, you have to change it all to the listening professional. We're all listening professionals."
Right.
And so that's what's really interesting to a lot of companies today is, one, train people in listening. It's probably, aside from breathing, the most important life skill and certainly the most important business skill, right? This is not new. If you know anything about Dale Carnegie and the types of lessons he was selling across the country as a door-to-door salesman and trainer, it was all about listening and relating to your prospective customers. And then on the other side of it, you train your folks, and then you also want to give them a bunch of mental wellness benefits. The founder and CEO of Airbnb, Brian Chesky, said a couple months ago that it is not remote work itself that is going to hurt the future companies and existing companies right now, but it's going to be the loneliness from that cuts down on productivity for the customers. And so that's what we're solving. And so we are a much cheaper, much more scalable version of mental wellness to help meet the 48% of unmet mental health needs in America.
Gosh, you just summed it up in there. That's almost a whole podcast, doggone it. I have a dear friend. She was my mentor, Joanne. I've talked about Sharon Crystal a lot in the past. She's the one I worked with, the Hebrew Academy. I did a lot of fundraising out west for many years, and when I was in Las Vegas. She said one thing to me that kind of applies to what we're saying here. She says, never keep an opportunity to keep your mouth shut. Always keep, never keep an opportunity to keep your mouth shut. So you're listening in a sense. And when you're listening, you're getting a lot. Joanne's listening now. She doesn't have a happy look on her face at times. She's city councilor by day and fitness expert at night, or vice versa.
Powerful combination.
Powerful combination. So happy to you, Joanne. What do you think?
I do a lot of listening, Bob.
I know you do.
Yeah, that's my virtue in life.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're good at it because as the director that she does in her industry, there's so many things going on at once. You have to be able to listen first and then know where you're going to attack later to see where we're going to solve this problem. Mental health, before I get into you kind of nailed the nail on the head with solving the problems, but in the workplace, that's the biggest problem. I think when I come in, my biggest thing is that we never solve the problem. Like I'll bitch a lot and I'll say to Joanne, I'll say, gosh, we've been dealing with this problem. We can't get these cameras up. I don't know what's going on. We have excuses. Am I handling that right? Do I need to stop about it? Or, I mean, to me, because no one's listening.
Yeah, well, I would say that, or what we might call venting, is perfectly fine as long as it's being funneled into the right direction. You want to lead towards a little bit of action. Maybe think about your responsibility for the
So I need to
microphone.
be. So you're saying that I should maybe take a little extra time on my time and maybe say, what can I do to help you facilitate this? Would that be fair?
Sure. I don't know though if we're talking about the loneliness in the workplace that's going to solve that.
Right.
And I think what we need to start doing is bringing people back together. Now, I get why remote work is really good for a lot of people. I think, and we're already seeing this, that it's not great for the newest and youngest workers in the workforce, because they're not going to get what we all got by the community that's built around your colleagues, the mentorship that you get by just walking by the desk or your office of your manager. Everything is now, a Slack message or an email or a Zoom call, and you don't get what has been referred to as the water cooler conversations. And those are real. That's when people connect. It's those one-off interactions that build relationships over time. And some of the best research that Hapi's fundamental approach is built on is research by the University of Chicago professor Nick Epley. And he's done about 2 decades of this research where they show that whether it's on public transportation or sitting in a restaurant or walking the streets of a city, that talking to strangers is overwhelmingly more rewarding than you expected it to be.
See, Joanne,
yeah, go ahead.
I talk to anybody. I never met a stranger, Joanne.
Nobody.
I talk to everybody. No, go ahead. I'm sorry, but I relate to that. It makes sense. It does. I feel good when I'm on the train. When I came back from Buffalo recently, I'm in Atlanta International, Hartsfield International, and I'm on the train. And this lady glared at me, and it was like a moment. I know, here goes Joanne. Look at me. Look, this is not what I'm going after. But she gave me a look, and she was attractive. It was nice. And my wife knows the story. I told her the story, and it's nothing like that. It wasn't even a flirty moment. It was a nice. She smiled and she was, "How are you doing today?" I said, "Good." I said, "My mom passed away, and I'm on my way back, but everything went. Oh, I'm so sorry." And it was just really quick. She had to get off at the C terminal. I was getting off at T. So but it was just a quick thing. And it made a day. She said something very sincere to me, and it makes a difference. There's some people that don't care to do that, but there's other things they can do if they're not like me, if they're not somebody who's extroverted. Joanne, will you say what you're thinking? What are you thinking?
That's like an introverted nightmare.
How do we solve that problem with Joanne?
So I actually want to bust this little myth that we're talking about here.
Yeah,
which is
bust it.
Introverts, right? So I actually just made a post about this the other day, which is this whole Myers-Briggs thing that we talk about, personality test. The first thing you should know about Myers-Briggs is that they were not psychologists. They were a little bit obsessed with Jungian psychology. They had read some stuff, but they didn't know anything about human interaction, let alone testing.
Interesting.
And now personality tests, you just look at McKinsey, is a $2 billion industry where companies think that they can match teams together based on these tests that we take beforehand. The actual psychology research shows that both introverts and extroverts, those are real categories, are both energized by social interaction. Some people get more tired more easily than other people. Some people will stay out partying all night, but everyone is energized and made happier by social interaction.
No, I agree. Joanne, you're nodding, right?
No,
I agree.
I mean, I if you were to talk, sorry, no offense, Bob. If you were to talk to me on a subway and you were to smile at me, I would probably smile back and I would probably turn the opposite direction.
Why would it be?
Please don't talk to me.
But you make a valid point. Am I the creepy guy, or is it's not so much that you just don't want to be bothered?
I value my quiet time. It's like that is something that I cannot get back to me.
So, Adi, what do we do in a situation like that?
In my profession, I talk and I listen and I listen and I listen all day long, and I talk. And when I'm by myself in a situation where I don't know anyone, then that is time that I will never get back for myself. That's high valued time.
Is that a personality disorder? What are we working with?
No, I think that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Also, right? Alone time is totally fine and healthy. And those of us who are extroverts like you and I should probably take more time like that, right?
There you go, Joanne. Yeah,
but what I would say is we need to be able to set up more societal mechanisms for us to connect with one another and for people to be heard. One of the biggest problems that I think is plaguing this country, this world, society right now is that people don't feel heard. if you look at the last, I don't want to get too political, but if you look at the last, say, 6 or 7 years that we just went through as a country, and it's not just our country, but other kind of crazy governments around the world, there has been this uprising or following the wrong, so to speak, leader, because they're saying things that other people think are talking to them, but they're not. And the real things that people care about are not getting heard. And so I'll give you an example. I've spent a bunch of time with Get Out the Vote efforts. These are nonpartisan efforts to make sure, you saw it a lot in Georgia over the last few years.
Oh yeah, we were the hotbed. We were on the forefront. Yeah.
And it's they're nonpartisan. It's to make sure that people know where their polling stations are and to vote. And I've had interactions where people were telling me why they didn't like one party or another party. And then it would go down the road of, oh, I don't like them because Hollywood supports them. And then I don't like that because of diversity. And I said, well, what do you mean? Like, what's wrong with that? And this woman once said to me, she said, well, I don't like immigrants because they're taking my kids' jobs. So first of all, she said, where did you learn that? She said TV. I said, you should probably turn off the TV. But what she was really saying is that no one is listening to her when she is crying out that we don't have an education system that's benefiting her kids, that give them those same jobs that skilled workers are coming in for and taking them, whether it's at some of the big tech companies or the pharmaceutical companies. And so we need to create a platform, and Hapi is beginning to do that, where people can actually voice their thoughts, their opinions.
Because what comes out of your mouth sometimes isn't exactly what you meant to say. The context is lost with a blank statement of just the immigrants are taking our jobs. When really, like you said, she's really trying to say, hey, you know what? I need a system. I need something to know what would be a great way for my children to maybe find a better opportunity to apply, to find some work, instead of just saying that right away, and that could be offensive to someone else, and the wall goes up, and now we're not listening, kind of thing. You got a way to funnel it, like you said, to channel it, to do it that way, which I think makes sense. It happens all that. No, it does. It happens all the time. I know, even if just for sake of time too, you have a purpose of it's the Atlantic Listening Academy.
That's right. Yep.
And the purpose of that, would that kind of parlay in what you're saying right now a little bit? How does that work in that kind of situation where the left doesn't listen to the right, whether it's politics or whatever, so we can maybe all get to the same, we have a goal, but nowadays it seems like the goals are two different goals and we're going in two different directions. But before, we had different methods to getting to the goal. Mm-hmm. Do you see that as a problem too? Because it's so diametrically opposed in workplaces too. I mean, and in politics, in a world like that, where the goals are so different, where we always had one goal, different methods of getting there. So that being said, does that Atlantic Listening Academy, could that be something to bridge that a little bit, or at least respect it?
Yeah, absolutely. The ALA teaches people at their core to listen, to understand. That's how the academics have really parsed out the ultimate skill there. And we built a full, unique curriculum around that. It is a self-guided, self-paced course that anyone can take online, like we were discussing earlier. We originally built it for our professional listeners. I also believe that this is one of the largest and going to be a growing gig sector, because we can start to employ, we already have listeners around the world, especially in our country, and we're just there to have other people feel heard. And the number one thing is, you're from New York, I'm from New York, maybe very different parts of New York,
yes,
but there's this thing in the Northeast where we just interrupt people because we think we're participating in the conversation.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Well, my last day, my daughter did the other day. No.
Exactly.
It's
like, yeah,
life.
I get what you're
It's my
saying, but I
life.
didn't finish my story. Right.
It's the Italian-American.
It's my life with Bob.
It's Joanne.
Describes my life with
she's
Bob.
easy. She doesn't say anything, so what the heck? I do all the time. I have to fill in the
listening.
void because she doesn't say anything, so I'm not really interrupting her.
She's listening.
Maybe you're not giving me a chance to speak, Bob.
Here we go. This platform's yours. It happened to me the other day at church. True story. A guy, I was talking about my mother, her passing recently, and how her passing was it was great. Mom was ready, and she was okay with it, and that's the part that really made it good for me. And I'm telling this to a woman in church who had tears in her eyes. She wanted to hear the story because she had recently lost her mom. And out of nowhere, this guy from Pittsburgh, I would consider him a Yankee, Northeaster. I'm like, God bless him. He just starts railing in the middle of like the really important part of the story I'm telling is, hey, Bob, my neck is still hurting. I got this this thing going on, and I'm looking at the woman that I'm telling the story to, and if she could just read what she said, like, what in the blankety blank are you doing? We're in church too, so. But it is something we do. It's bad, and we do try to finish other people's sentences. And that being said, I'll let you finish because I did interrupt you.
No,
Joanne agrees with a nod.
Yeah, she's doing a great job listening. And what's interesting is that I can't see Joanne right now. Her camera's off, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about listening. And so that is part of it. And on our platform, it is audio only and anonymous. So what we see is that people are coming in, and I don't know, have you ever gone to therapy before?
Yes, I have. Physical therapy.
Oh my God.
Oh, you're talking about mental therapy. I'm sorry. I just came back from PT today.
Yeah.
No,
So
I have. I went to a counselor. Yeah, I've gone to a counselor. I've talked to people. And Joanne, that's a topic Joanne and I talked about. She's a military
Everyone
spouse.
should
So
go to counseling.
Yeah.
It's the highlight of my month.
yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. So
Yeah.
part of that, though, I mean, I wonder if you relate to this, is this notion that you're going in to build a long-term relationship with the therapist. And therefore, strangely, you have a reputation to uphold.
Interesting.
And it takes a while to unpack. You're sitting with them.
Mhm.
It used to be only in person. Now a lot of it can be done virtually, but you don't always tell your whole story in the first session. What we have found on the Hapi app is that people just find this comfort because it's not therapy. You don't see the person. You don't even know who they are on the listener side. And all of a sudden, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we know the person's full story, everything they came to say and they needed to get off their chest, that we can actually start to work through some of that stuff together. Now, to be clear, we're non-clinical. We are not
Right.
coaching either. But the most important thing you can do is ask the good questions that help people find their own answers. And our app and our listeners do that really well.
Well, who are the certified listeners, and who are the, as you just said that, because they're not, not licensed practitioners or whatever, but who are the certified listeners?
Our listeners really run the gamut. So we have people who are, say, lawyers and doctors and potentially even social workers.
Cool.
They won't put their actual professions out there in their bio because they can't practice under a separate license with us. But just to show you, we have people with big 6-figure salaries, and on the other end, we have people who are doing this full time in, I don't know, maybe the middle of Alabama.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
Yeah,
Sweet
and
home
they-
Alabama.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're just as good at listening. And so people bring their own flavor, just like you find your own doctor or your own therapist or your own clergy member, right? You decide which house of worship to go to based on the opinions you're getting or the voice, right? And so these people are incredibly patient. They do an amazing job just being in the moment with people. They listen to understand. And now, most importantly, they're all certified through the Atlantic Listening Academy. So it's not just like they're making this up. They're following, at least from what we're concerned, a modality that we believe is best to build the most impactful type of conversations you can have.
And that's good, because I think people have to understand it's kind of like a certified place. It's the bishop of the church, if you will, kind of regulating. I must use that phrase for a little bit, but it does help. So it's good that you guys are guided and you have a place to do that. But if everyone's experiencing the benefits of listening, how would I say, how can everyone experience that? It's Bob Jeswald here. It's Joanne Kogel. We're diametrically opposed people and personalities. One listens, the other one sometimes and does all the talking. That's why she hires me as one of her speakers at her triathlon. So I was telling you, we were talking about tris earlier.
It's exhausting.
And he does
to
it.
fill
Yeah.
in.
I can talk for 7 hours. I get paid for it. It's a great deal. But seriously, it's I do it professionally because I love it. But somebody of all different backgrounds, how can everyone experience the benefits of just sitting there listening to Hapi? Yeah, I got the app. I could put it on my phone. I can put it on any phone you have. You can download it through Google Play App Store, and have at it. So and then there's a cost involved too. We'll talk about that real quick. But how can they? What would be the best way to?
Well, the best way to experience it is to just get on the app and try it.
Just
we
do
give
it.
away 15 minutes for free to everyone. You'll be so convinced that you'll actually want to pay for this. The
You get
funny
15
thing
minutes
that,
free. I just put it on my phone.
I know she's
Yeah, there you go.
doing. See, she's listening and she's participating. I knew she was up to something, unless it was something
love
else.
she's the best type of interviewer.
Yes, she is. She is. Yeah. So 15 minutes, you get a free trial for 15 minutes.
15 minutes, and then you go into any type of paid plan. We have dynamic pricing, so you'll have to see the price that comes up for you where you're located and
Sure.
the amount of time.
Should
But we
also
do
know-
offer packages, and most people buy in 1 hour segments, and then they can use it either the full hour, and you can book a listener that you like, or you can start just place the call and the clock starts ticking up. And when the call ends, then that's what you have left in your wallet for another call. What's really interesting is that we have people now who are in these, say, 3-year-long anonymous audio only relationships. They're great friends. They've worked through a lot of problems together. They don't even know each other. But because of the app, they've been coming back daily, weekly, monthly. Some people go up and down, the relationship is great. They don't need to talk. Then they break up again. So they come back and they talk. But we have helped people. These are customer anecdotes who have said, "You saved my life. You got me out of an abusive relationship. I completely pivoted my career because of my Happy conversations." And to the extent that we have now heard people saying, "I get so much validation in my Happy calls that I'm starting to reduce, if not eliminate, my therapy sessions."
I think we should sing the Happy song.
Yeah, you can talk
Happy
about
birthday.
relationships, life,
go.
friends, family, work, or other.
Anything. Yeah.
Anything
And
you
people,
want.
again, if you're listening here on this podcast, wonderful podcast today with Adi Segal, the CEO of Hapi, is a way to deliver like a custom. You can basically customize who and what and where, what part of the region. You could pretty much custom who you want to listen to you, and they may have something that maybe I'm going to go even off on a limb here and just say, how about I want to change? You have a career change you want to change, and you search for that CEO. You search for that Adi or somebody else in the industry that might be able to give you some insight of what it takes to get there, opposed to a professor at a university that is teaching it, but there's a difference of talking to somebody who experiences that particular industry, who would be a great listener to help me sort through some of my angst. But even with that being said, in the workplace too, it works, because you're seeing too, how do we work? There's a couple things you do in a sense. We got the app, we have people, listening, but we also have to experience the people that have to listen in the workplace too, to help mental loneliness. Is mental loneliness, it's in the workplace, but would this help them get past that? Or is there something you can do in the Happy company to say, I could come in and give you guys, or through a Zoom call or whatever it may be, some sort of plan that you can reach better goals?
Yeah, so we offer a few different things when it comes to our business partnerships. The number one thing is, of course, the Atlantic Listening Academy. That gets everyone on the same page. That's more on the training side to boost your company. We know that listening drives the bottom line. It improves company culture. It improves retention and recruitment. It makes it a place that people want to work. So that's really important. The second thing that we'll do is come in with our listening experts and run a full day, a half day seminar. And that works in two different ways. One, if you know anyone who's a doctor, they'll tell you that everything they learned was actually in residency, not in medical school. So it really, I wouldn't want to say it doesn't matter that you've gone through our course, but you have to actually practice it. The most important thing about listening is practicing it.
Sure.
And so we make sure that you go through those activities, you play some fun games, you understand why listening is important. And those are the skills that then you have to carry out in your everyday business. Now, Bob, to your last question about what about the loneliness, this is a big problem. We know that 60% of Americans identify as lonely today. And so we need to give them a space where they can talk, where they can connect, they can find a sense of belonging. And that's where the app comes in. So one of the most important things that after you've been trained that listening is okay and a skill that you can use, you also need to be heard. And so that's where the companies can provide time on our platform. And we know that some of the biggest name companies are already doing this. And so that is not to say that this is for a particular person or a particular industry. We have seen people come through this app who are CEOs, people who work at very big tech companies, and people who are Uber drivers and, housemaids and whatnot. And the other really interesting thing is that this is really great. Let's say you're traveling. This works both on the personal side as well as if you're out there for work. You're going to a foreign country, you don't know anyone, especially if you're spending a lot of time there. Sometimes you just want to talk to someone who sounds like you and gets you. And we have a lot of customers who use the platform for that as well. It's kind of like a cultural exchange, if you will. So as you can see, the listening services can be used in so many different ways.
So what would happen if Joanne Kogel was on one side? She's a listener, as she is, and there's another one like Joanne Kogel on the other side. It would negate everything. What would happen? Somebody's got to talk. We got to have somebody that's opposite a little bit, right?
If you reach out, you're likely going to be talking.
Okay.
Right, exactly.
Look at you. Look at it. Just testing your
Listening
senses
skills.
and your listening skills. Very good, Joanne. That was a good comeback. I'll give you I'll give you a high five for that one. That was good.
And to Joanne's point,
Yes.
Usually you don't have to say very much. When someone calls in, they're calling in for a reason. And so they can be just like Joanne and sit there and just have a very calm voice and say, hey, what's going on today? And that could be a 4 to 8 hour call.
Wow. Yeah. And that was the next thing. The limit is limitless. I mean, it could go as long as you want it. And
it will go as long as the both parties have time for. Listeners can set their own time limits. And we just ask that if you have to get off the phone, either set that container ahead of time or give someone at least 15-minute warning to wrap up.
Okay.
I will also say from the scientific perspective, we work with a few different researchers. There's one world-renowned researcher named Avi Kluger out of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem.
Okay.
He runs a listening lab. He's been doing this for 2 years. He's taught in America as well. And he finds that the best conversations where both parties can feel heard kind of climaxes, so to speak, at about 27 to 30 minutes. So when you're having a conversation, that's good. If you want to go on, that's great. That's your time. What we have found is that sometimes you end up talking in circles, but sometimes people need that. We're not going to stop them from getting the listening that they need.
It's like a couple times during this podcast, I repeated the question in a different way, just because I want to make, just so people didn't hear it the first time, you think the second time. It's like a pastor at a church or a priest that goes through the homily and they get the point right there in 10 minutes, but they go about 20 minutes and you lost half the congregation because it either gets mundane or people start falling asleep or, you get the point. So maybe getting to the point, but some need repetition. I know I do. I'm a person that I'm okay with my pastor. A lot of people go, okay, he said it, but I kind of like to hear it two different ways. Like he says what he said and it was good, but he repeats it, but in another way. And they know that's an effective way of communicating sometimes, but it's not for everybody's cup of tea. Like Joanne's cup of tea right now, or ever.
Don't unsell yourself, Bob.
I'll try not to.
Bob, I got a good joke for you.
Good. I want to hear it. I need one right now.
I don't know if you can listen to it.
Oh, I can't. Here we go.
It is right in line with what you were just saying. We joke in synagogue. What does it mean when the rabbi takes off his watch and puts it on the lectern right before the sermon?
Oh gosh.
Absolutely nothing.
So. Salute. Shintani. I love it. That's great. I'm going to remember. Can I take that one? I need another
just
one.
change the religion, whatever you want.
Perfect. Yeah, just all you do is custom your religion. Are you a Baptist pastor? Are you a Catholic priest? Are you a rabbi? It works all the way through. In temple or in a church, either way. Oh, that's great stuff. That is awesome. That to me, all this is like so on point. It really, really, truly is. And I appreciate that. If anyone listening, they want to be a listener and work for you or be part of this, how does that work?
First
I can
step
tell
is
you.
to sign
up. Go ahead, Joanne. Joanne's got the floor. Look at this. Go ahead, JoJo.
I can tell you. You
Okay.
go to the app.
Okay.
And you go to the bottom that says work for us. And then you click on it and then you enroll in their course and you become a certified professional listener. And you go to the Atlantic Listening Academy.
Right.
And then there are...
It's governed by that.
Yeah. And there are 4 modules that you go to. And then,
Adi, how did she do?
I think you apply.
It's like we paid her to say this.
I know.
There you go.
That was perfect. I have a feeling you two guys, did you talk before?
And then
we
you
had this
can join
podcast?
our VIP listener list.
Perfect. I love it.
And most graduates go on to earn over $25,000 a year as professional listeners on the Hapi platform.
I do this all the time. I'm not kidding you. I come in, I'm like Cheers.
I don't think this is for you, Bob.
But listen, I do listen.
This is not a career path for you.
People, no, just it's a side hustle.
No, not for you.
Really? Are you kidding me? No. I can see it. All the time.
This is not your career path.
I'm the bartender in the weather office. People come in and they unload on me, and I listen to them, and I give them some, I'll give them some wisdom the best I can.
I can assure you, this is not your career path.
Adi, help me out here. Beg me out here.
Well,
stick with being an MC, okay?
So I'm
Yeah.
better as an MC, Adi. Is that what you'd say? Is she, as you're listening and as she's listening, and what you know about me now for the last hour?
I would give a little bit more hope, and I would say take our course. And if you find it meaningful and you learn something from it, I will tell you, first of all,
Yeah.
the course has only been out for a few months now. We've only received 5 stars and comments. We've had these calls with people who have done it, and they're like, we just want to tell you how wonderful it is.
Sure.
We have professors who teach listening on the college level and said, I have learned new things and started to use new methodologies because of your course. So it's very possible.
So I can use it.
that a
See,
long-time
Joanne?
weatherman.
It could maybe change your life
See, okay, there you go. There you go. So I'm
in
up
the
for it.
complete opposite direction of what you are. It could just totally change and transform your personality.
I don't know
Change
about
the
that.
dynamic of the show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hey, the show, which hey, if it does, it'll improve the podcast. That's right. That's right. I like that. I think that works.
It's a
well.
very boring podcast. It'll
Hey,
be very quiet.
I'm good with time management. It's 30 minutes already of our podcast, and those listening, we want to lose their interest because, as we said earlier, sometimes we go too long and people start to tune out. But we want to make sure they tune in because there's so much more of this. Adi, we have a link down at the bottom of Hapi. We have it here for you, Lewis.
Spelled Hapi.
Yes, Hapi. And as he said, it's kind of the Silicon Valley, playoff of that, and it kind of goes and it streamlines it. So I think it's an effective way of getting your attention. And other than that, this CEO is really rocking on something big. I love what you're doing. It's fantastic. And again, this makes me happy just thinking about it. And I think there's a lot of things that we can take away from this, and other businesses and industries and personal people just trying to find out a way that you can better your life. And if you're feeling lonely, check it out. And you can check it out here as Adi knows at WRBL.com, where we get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Audible, and of course on these platforms. Or of course you can see us on YouTube now too. So if you want to see us visually and see Adi in his great presentation along with Joanne, or on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, we'll have those links there for you as well at any time of the Bob Jeswald Show. But Adi, we want to thank you so much. Thanks for coming in the studio here with us today and being part of something great and fun. Good friend of mine, Trisha Keene, once said, she says, Bob, you remind me of my rabbi. I should have been an actor. Do you think maybe that's who I should talk to? I want to be an actor, Joanne. What do you think?
You and Ben Stiller, right?
Ben Stiller, there you go. I could do it. Joanne, let me, please. Could you see it? Would it be a good career path for me?
No,
She's listening.
just stick with.
Well, the
media.
weather is kind of acting every day.
Yeah.
Action.
That's it.
Right.
And I do. I perform.
You do.
I'm emphatic.
The only job where you can be wrong 100%
That's right.
of the time.
My buddy, this is a true story. I'll leave you all on this. It was in Tel Aviv, Channel 2, Danny Rupp. This is back in the early mid-90s. Danny Rupp was a meteorologist here. I'm sure he's retired by now. But he got sued for a faulty forecast. That's the only time I heard of any weather guy, because people caught a cold. Mediterranean, so erratic. And if you live like in the Great Lakes, even if I was in Buffalo, I'd get sued too, because it could snow 1 minute, next minute it's not. It's sunny. You said it was going to be warm, and then all of a sudden cold air goes over the lakes and it's all over. So yeah, we've been fortunate. You're right. We usually can get away with it, and people forgive you. So.
Well, thanks so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun, and we just hope that we can spread and grow the global listening movement, because it's what our society needs right now.
I love it, and good. And we'll see it. We'll see you at another time. Keep in touch, will you? And you got my information, and let's see.
Just in case you have a position open.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Right.
It's a side hustle, Joanne. That's all I said. It's a side hustle.
Side hustle for Bob.
Have a great one, everybody. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.